Commission to delivering it.
PBP and I call in Deputy Brid Smith.
I'll go to the last count, Corla. Táiniste, you're also the Minister for Justice and Equality, and you've been getting a lot of heat recently on the question of justice, and I want to turn the heat up under the question of injustice, of inequality. Recently there were two reports produced on the gender pay gap in this country, widening, and it's interesting when you look at the figures. These two reports, one from PwC and the other from Morgan McKinley, and it's interesting when you look at the figures that pay gap between men and women's earnings has risen dramatically in the years of your government by 8.3% from 2012 to a high of 15.2% in 2015. Now, we know some of the factors contributing to this are childcare, which is of the most expensive in Europe. There's supposed to be plans to deliver a proper childcare plan for women workers, 40% of whom are on low-paid, flexible, part-time contracts precisely because of the cost of childcare, and each year the reports show that 3,000 women are being driven out of the workforce because of the cost of childcare. The other interesting facts that are shown by these reports is that profits in the retail and hospitality sector have soared by over 40% above the pre-crash levels in the last year or two. And it is predominantly women who work in these sectors, and it is predominantly women who live on low pay. And low pay is connected to low hours, and you can't deny it because there are scientific studies to show that the lower hours you work on the lower pay, this drives women into further and further poverty, and therefore the gender gap is opening up in this way. Now, Táiniste, I know you're not responsible for all of those areas, but you are responsible for dealing with the question of equality, and this indicates a huge growing gap of inequality for women in this country. And I might add to it, as well as enduring discrimination in pay, in hours and contracts through their working life, having worked their life, women who are now retiring are finding that their contributory old age pension is being cut drastically because of the banding of the hours and the averaging of the hours. So if you take a couple I know, Paul and Pauline, who are related to each other, Paul has half the contributions of Pauline, and yet she earns 30% less in her contributory pension, both of whom have worked all of their lives. So you are presiding over inequality as a Minister for Justice and Equality, and there lies the injustice in your dealing with the Department of Equality. So I'd like to know what you're going to do about the opening gap in gender inequality in pay, and really what you're going to do about the discrimination, the visible, known to your department discrimination against pensioners. When they retire, they're being discriminated on two grounds: on the ground of age, but mostly on the ground of gender, because women primarily are the homemakers and have been through those years. So I'd like you to answer those questions.
3 minutes.
Make, and I saw the details of that report, and the details need examination, because there was quite a number of areas where they highlighted how well Ireland was actually doing in relation to the issues that they were examining. That's the first point I would make. The second point, in terms of childcare, this government is investing more than has ever been invested in childcare. And of course, for women combining work and family life, you do quite rightly say we need access to childcare, high quality, affordable, accessible. And that's what this government is committed to doing. We've introduced the second free preschool year. We've also dealt with that very important issue of young children who are in preschool who need access to special needs. For the first time ever, this government has ensured that those children will have access to special needs supports and assessment. That's very important. But primarily it's about increasing places that are affordable. And that is happening with the second free preschool year. More children than ever, over 100,000, 120,000 will now be availing of those two free preschool years, and that will be rolled out in September. There's also the after-school places, and Minister Sapone has been doing a lot of work on making sure that more childcare is available. That's the second point, which will help reduce the gap that you're speaking about. The other survey that I would refer you to is the one that has come out in relation to the survey on income and living conditions, which has shown that income inequality went down last year and has been going in the absolute right direction as a result of the decisions taken in recent budgets. That's the reality, that's the facts, that income inequality has been decreasing. And you'd have to go right back to 2009 to see that difference. That income inequality has been decreasing. And I would say as well, very important, the point I made earlier here today, that the best way out of poverty and the best way to be able to sustain one's family is to have a job. And the number of jobs, the unemployment, I know the opposition don't like acknowledging it, but unemployment has gone down from 15.5 to 6.8. Now, perhaps that's a statistic you should focus on, because that actually is what makes a difference to people's lives if they have an opportunity to be out there in a job and supporting their family. And that's what most people want. They want to be out there having the opportunity to work. And thousands, tens of thousands of people have gone back to work. And you might occasionally acknowledge that that actually makes a difference to the quality of people's lives and to the income in households. And the evidence is that income inequality has been going down in this country. And we are becoming a more equal society with a lot of work still to do.
Supplementary, 1 minute.
Right. Well, I just want to remind you that the headline of the report I mentioned is not that this state ranks well. It ranks 25 out of 33 of OECD countries in a table of overall female economic empowerment. That is the startling fact. Now, you have just said that the good news is that people have jobs, that people have any kind of a job, not if you're a TESCO worker, not if you're on a pre-96 contract, most of whom are women, and it's being torn up by the bosses in TESCO arbitrarily, which is also them breaking the law. As Minister for Justice, will you bring the TESCO bosses in here and tell them that they cannot break contract law? You're in charge of legislation and they're not going to rip up legislation under your nose. Will you defend those workers who are daily in the lashings of rain on the picket line, standing steadfast in solidarity with those 250, mainly women, who are being discriminated against? And I call again on everybody who gives a damn about justice, equality and solidarity in this country to get down to the picket lines at TESCO tomorrow, Saturday, 12 o'clock, and support those workers and insist that TESCO will not get away with breaking the law as they are doing under your watch, Minister.
Táiniste,
well, clearly there's a whole range of actions which I've been highlighting, which we need to take and are taking to deal with the particular point you made about the gender pay gap. And it's by those series of actions that we will arrive at a point where there is more equality in relation to the gender pay gap. I mean, there's many things that can be done. Clearly, dealing with the minimum wage, as we have done, reversing what had been done there makes a difference. Promoting wage transparency by requiring companies with over 50 employees to complete wage surveys, giving a strengthened role to the Low Pay Commission in regard to the gender pay gap. All of those initiatives make a difference, as well as what I have said in relation to childcare. Clearly, what I would say to you in relation to TESCO, we would appeal and advise and encourage the parties to use the offices of the WRC and the Labour Court, and that is where this will be dealt with. We would want management and unions to continue. We would want management and unions to work together to find a solution. That's what's going to happen in this dispute, as the same as every other dispute. It is about, we have a good history in this country in hundreds and thousands of situations of using the WRC and the Labour Court, and that's clearly what needs to happen in this situation as well.
I'm calling on Deputy Pringle. Deputies, please.